Hello guys, welcome to the next episode of Late Friday Night's Banter Blitz. International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy is here. The weather is finally more or less okay in Germany, so let's see if I can perform better than, last week. Hopefully everything is fine with the stream, the sound, the picture. We're going to start right now. So let's see what do we have in a sense of challenges. There are not so many, I believe. Yeah, so only one, two, three, four for now. Wow, that's a record. So let's play against Battery Bob. Accept the challenge. And I'm playing with white pieces, so let's start with the e4. c6, okay. It's a d4. And a d5. It's a very simplistic play. g6, preparing bishop to g7, I suppose. Or bishop f5. Okay, so many people prefer this. I'm not sure it is, very good. I guess it shouldn't be that fine for black. Because black damages his own pawn structure right from the beginning, but okay. It's a question of taste, right? McTal says, I'm not a beard fan, more a beer fan. Me either. So, e6. What to do now? This knight b1 should be on d3. Gradually, I'm going to bring it exactly there. Oh, X says hello in Ukrainian. Добрый вечер, Andrey. Very nice. Very nice. Guten Abend, X. Okay. e6, what to do? To castle immediately or just to wait a bit? Because if black, for instance, castles quickly short, I mean, I'll have some like h3, g4 resource. It's not very realistic. Right, so let's just develop the piece. Knight to d2, maybe a bit later, knight to b3, knight to c1, knight d3, something like this. Alright, I think I'm not against this exchange either. So let's castle and see what's going on there. So let's maneuver the knight. There is nothing to do on d2, obviously. b6. Okay. I have another square to get there. Not only c5, I mean. c1 is also okay. So, from here, the knight can go to f4 later. It controls e5 as well. Would be nice to bring the queen somewhere to h6, maybe. Let's see. Depends on what black is going to do here. Knight obviously can jump to e4 at some point, but I think I have good chances just to kick it away with the help of f3. King h8. Preparing rook to g8, right? What about just playing knight to e5 right now? Is it something or not? Or maybe just to wait till black plays rook to g8 and then play knight e5. Don't know. I feel like this move looks great right now. Just preventing rook to g8. More or less, I mean. Now, what if we take this one? Oh, maybe knight take d7 was better because basically that knight on c6 is quite passive and knight on d7 at least can go back to f6, right? Yeah, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I shouldn't capture on c6. But alright, even this position looks nice. So queen h4, I have no weaknesses in my camp. Black obviously has some problems with dark squares. And I hope to exploit this thing gradually. For now, I'm just attacking the knight. Knight goes away. I will have f6 square to occupy with my queen. And probably I'm just winning the material after knight d2, because knight on d2 is hanging after queen g5 check, which happens just right now after king g8. And now I just take the knight, extra minor piece. Here we go. First win. Okay, that was not very complicated game. I'm not sure that bishop f5 is, the best idea for black to try here. Yeah, it's a typical thing just to control e4 better. But I think black has so many different ways to equalize against this, e5, c5, bishop d3, then, this bishop f5 is just not necessary. It simply creates a weakness and, a long-term weakness that I can exploit, maybe even in the endgame. So self-weakening of the position is, in my opinion, not a very good thing in general. So to bishop f4, e6, knight e2. Again, I don't think that bishop d6 is the right exchange because it weakens dark squares even more. Probably bishop g7, but on the other hand, this bishop is quite bad long term. I mean, black's bishop here, because it is quite limited with my pawns. So maybe bishop d6 was okay. Knight f6, knight to b3. And here I think knight e4 immediately was more interesting than playing b6, because you basically do the same. You control c5 square, but your knight is now more active. And probably you can think of just castling long instead of castling short, and then to try to use this g file is much more logical when you already weakened your, position on the king side. So that is why basically I won the game, because of the weakness of your king there on g8. So on c8 it should be safer. All right, that is at least my opinion. Thank you for the game. Let's have a look what is going on here. Yeah, now we have much more challenges. So let's see if we have somebody I've never ever played before. Yeah, here is the guy from Burma. Let's play. Accept. And black pieces now. I'm just checking if everything is okay with the stream. Seems it's fine. It's knight f6, c4, e6, and Ninja Indian. Bishop b4. Queen c2, classic line. Castles. a3, bishop takes, queen takes, no, pawn takes. That's strange. I mean, if you want to take with the pawn, you can play a3 without playing queen c2. I understand you prepare e4 now. This may be also interesting. So how to react to this? Never ever seen this before. Probably because it is not very consistent. But it's definitely playable, so. c5, b6, followed by bishop a6, knight c6, knight a5. There are different ideas. We're probably just d6, and if e4, then e5. It's a bit passive, usually. So what to do? d5 is not really very good, I think. Well, let's try d6. I mean, it's more or less flexible continuation, I believe. All right, knight on f3, which means after e4 there will be no follow-up in the form of f4, which is a good thing. Now what? Just knight e7, I think, preparing e5. And controlling c5 additionally. Question, Andre. Already decided on next Training Tuesday topic. Yeah, I told you that during the previous episode. So there will be positional quiz number 5. And after that, there will be something different. Bishop f4. That's a bit strange, but also playable. I mean, bishop f4 will be a target after e5 move. That's why Jose says, okay, last session was too hot to remember. Yeah, that's right. That was just amazing. So e5 is my idea at some point. Maybe now, maybe next move. So maybe I will make one more move preparing this. Waiting for white's move. Because if white plays bishop d3, e5 will work much better. And now I think I have a possibility just to develop my light squared bishop. And I'm not sure where to put it, on a6 or maybe on b7. Which one is better? Hard to say. Well, first of all, I want to stop pawn on a4. Potentially it will be also a weakness. Bishop e2. So now, bishop b7 or bishop a6. I don't think I will have a real chance to attack c4 in the nearest future, so let's put the bishop on b7. Controlling e4 additionally. Maybe intending to put the knight on e4. It's also interesting to me if it makes sense for me to play something like, rook to c8 at some point, protecting the c7 pawn, because white may have some ideas connected with c4, c5, and if I take with the d pawn, c7 drops. I don't think it's an immediate threat, because now if white plays c5, I just take with the b6, and then take with the knight. But anyway, I have to be careful about it. So first, let's play h6, additionally limiting dark squared bishop. Since I no longer have a dark squared bishop on the board, I'm trying to compensate it with the help of my pawns. Majority occupies dark squares, limiting the bishop. I'll definitely add the pawn on e5 at some point. I'm still not sure that is so needed right now, because white will not take, I believe, just go back to h2 or something. And then anyway, I'm not going to play e4. But after this knight e1, maybe I want to play e4. So e5, bishop goes away, e4. Where that knight goes, I'm not quite sure, so let's try it. Strange position. I don't think black has problems here. I think black is completely okay. But does it mean we have something more than that? Not sure, but let's put the pawn on e4, just limiting that knight on e1. I suppose white will have some problems finding active plan here, because something like f3 will be a serious weakening out of the position. It requires a lot of moves. to be played at least. So let's make several, prophylactic moves. So rook b8 is against c5. If c5, I just capture with the b pawn. Now, what to do with this knight? I'm not sure, because it should be here for some time. Just controlling c5 square, I believe. So let's put the bishop on c6, just targeting a4. Potentially, I can consider something like rook somewhere to c8, let's say. And then queen e8 and so forth. Well, it's probably too long, right? Yeah, it's too long. And that is going to occupy b5 at some point. Right, so maybe white has some play here. So I'm not sure if it is anything. I mean, even the knight standing on b5 doesn't really create a threat. And since I have slightly more space here on the king side, maybe I should consider moving the knight to h4, creating some threats to the king. Because after the knight went away from f3, the king looks a bit abandoned. So what's going on here? c5, is it a threat? I don't think so. Let's go. Rook to b3. Okay, let's put the queen on d7, attacking a4. And also targeting h3, more or less. Then knight h4 next move, maybe then knight h7, knight g5. So a couple of nice maneuvers, just creating threats effortlessly. Oh, this is too much. That bishop on h2 will not survive this. I think it's just almost a checkmate. Knight g4 takes, bishop g3, queen h3. There's knight e1 defense. And after that I have rook e3. Pawn takes, queen takes g3, king somewhere. Well, it's not entirely clear, right? So maybe we have to sort of delay that. So let's put the bishop here. I mean, my position is anyway much better. I don't have to be in a rush here. Oh, I have to be in a rush because I don't have the time on the clock. Oh, shit. Forgot about that completely, somehow. Come on. What's going on? My mouse is betraying me. My goodness. But I was still a bit faster in general than my opponent. Okay, so to start with, I'm not sure that bc3 is a logical move here. At least if you want to play this, probably, well, it makes sense not to waste the time on queen c2. Just make it immediately after bishop b4, right? But okay, it was quite playable anyway. Here, I believe something connected with the e4 was the most promising. Then bishop d3, knight e2, and so on. So now after knight f3, it's harder to play e4 because you don't have this f2, f3 move. Knight e7, okay, this bishop f4 is also not that cool, I guess. It was better to play e3, bishop d3 quickly, castling, then knight d2, then anyway, something connected with e4, f4, so aggressive pawn play in the center, because if you play this way, I have no problems. I mean, as we may notice, I have very flexible pawn structure, I have no weaknesses here, and your bishop is not necessarily very active after all these maneuvers. On h2 it feels quite bad. I'm not sure that e4 was great, so it was one of the options here for black. So the most typical is probably just to wait a bit. Maybe to put the knight on f8 to bring it to g6 or something. But e4 also looked very good because I limit the knight on e1, and that's why I decided to play it. It was very simple to understand why I'm doing it. Rook to b1, bishop to c6, knight to c2, knight to f8. So here again, I think it was necessary already to do something active. Maybe c5 right now. So c5, maybe I slightly underestimated this possibility because I cannot really take with the b pawn because of queen takes b8. And if I take, let's say, this way, and after this move, queen takes here, bishop takes c7. What do I have? I have bishop takes a4, right? Yeah, maybe it was not ready. All right, so you played queen to a2, okay. But after knight g6, definitely it was the time to do that. But it's the same problem, so I can play bishop d5 after that, so it was again not in time. All right. So probably then something connected to knight a3, knight b5 maneuver, and then trying to make this c5 work. At least it would have been consistent to put the knight on c2, then to a3 to b5, at least improving the position, right? Okay, but anyway, I won mainly because of the time trouble. Thanks for the game. One more game against somebody I've never ever played before. Let's see. Very hard nickname, except. And black pieces again. So, open game. Scotch. Let's remove it. So, main line. My opponent is playing quickly. Very good. Very good knowledge. So a5 is a preparation of bishop a6. Main point is that at some point, if white plays b3, protecting c4, I can play a4. So in many cases, when white develops the knight to d2 in this line and plays b3, black's normal reaction is something like a5, a4. Here it's also playable. Maybe I can start with the a4. Another logical move here is queen e6, because if white played g3, maybe the idea is to bring the bishop to, say, g2. Okay, let's try queen e6. I'm attacking c4. I mean, if bishop g2, I just grab the pawn. Question, did Andrey change settings to click and move from drag drop? Well, I'm just trying not to risk Kramnik student. Because, you know, I've been playing a lot of Blitz games recently, and these problems with the mouse costed me lots of rating points. So, for now, since I have enough time, I'm just clicking on one piece and then click on the square I wanted to move. Right, what's it going on? F4. Wow, weakening a lot, I suppose. So bishop a6 or bishop b4? Bishop b4 looks like a natural reaction. So queen e6 gave me a chance to bring the bishop there. Now, bishop a6 or just castling? I think castling. Why not? And then just undermining e5 quickly. Maybe after inclusion of this bishop a6, then d5, something like this. Very typical play. Castles. Now bishop a6, right? Very logical. Attacking the pawn. And if b3, wow, the king becomes very exposed, I suppose. All right. Very natural idea here is just to checkmate the guy somehow. Should I start with the a4, or it's already the time for me to play some like queen g6, controlling that diagonal, or just d5? I don't know. Everything looks quite, you know, attractive here, so I'll try a4. I guess opening the a file shouldn't be bad for black. Should be only helpful, I suppose. At some point, I can consider sacrificing my bishop on c4. If it interferes with bringing the rook to a1 or something. Also, this sacrifice may help me open the b file if it remains closed for a long time. I don't know, white's position looks very dubious here. King goes to b2. Okay, I think I have to take here. Now bishop a3 is an obvious option. But then what? I don't know, but anyway, it looks very attractive, so. Maybe I can just bring my rook f8 to b8. If say the king goes to b1 here. It will most likely go to c2, I suppose. Even after that, rook f to b8 looks very natural. Now knight takes c4 is in the air. Alright, rook to a1. Can I play this now? Knight to c4. bc4. Rook b2, king d1. No, nothing specific. So let's go back. Maybe it's time to play d5 or something. Opening the position even more. Oh. This is probably a blunder. No, it's not. I had queen g6 or queen f5 check. I mean, rook takes a6, rook a6, cd5 all of a sudden may have been a bit annoying. Attacking my queen and the rook on a6, and a2 is covered with the knight on c3. Okay, but cd5 immediately could have been interesting. Okay, just going to e7 here. Have a good option to improve this queen through c5 square at some point a bit later. I also have just a simple idea of taking on c4 now. Knight to a4 will not help, I believe. Is there a convincing way of winning the game? Like bishop takes c4, bc4, knight takes a4. It looks very attractive. Bishop takes d2. Queen takes d2. Well, almost everything is winning here, I believe. So let's take on c4. Yeah, I don't see why should it be bad. It's over. It's over. What happened here? I don't think it's a good idea to play g3, f4. It's, well, spends a lot of time. Instead of playing g3 here, as far as I remember, a good idea is to try queen e4. This is probably the main move here. Yeah, queen e4. Followed by bishop d3 with the normal development of the bishop castling. And this also stops me from castling easily, so I probably have to spend the time on something like g6 or play an endgame after, say, d6 or d5 at some point. But I'm not sure I can play d5 here right now, so probably bishop a6 first, and then at some point d5. I don't remember exactly. Maybe after queen e6. After queen e6, it's also possible. But queen e4 is definitely the main move here. g3 is probably also playable, but after queen e6, f4 just wastes a lot of time. Probably something like, bishop d2 castling long quickly, then maybe rook e1 protecting the pawn, or even sacrificing it at some point would have been more or less playable, I would say. Just f4, you don't really create a threat here. And I start developing my pieces quickly. Almost every move is a tempo gaining thing. And yeah, somehow here I started playing badly, so most likely I should have played rook to b8 immediately here instead of playing bishop a3. It was a bit strange decision of mine. So after that, you played rook a1, that was correct. And here I played d5. Probably cd5 was something I blundered here. So if I take your queen, you take mine. I achieve... What is going on here? So bishop takes e2. Takes here. I can take the rook, right? If you take on a8 first, maybe it's possible, right, to take even here. It's interesting, but then I have what? I have this check. Now it's lost for white. So rook a8 is not possible. D takes e6 then. I take the rook. You take my bishop or take on f7. No, but you're just an exchange down. Maybe you have some compensation, but not more than that. All right, so cd5 was not possible. Maybe rook a6 then. That is what basically disturbed me a bit. So rook a6, cd5. Rook is hanging. There is no rook a2 check. Queen is hanging as well. Queen is hanging as well. So queen g6, I thought, would be a move where after you can try what? You can try queen e4. Yeah, but I have the time again to win the material. Okay, so maybe it was playable for black after all. Yeah, then, well, black's position is quite pleasant here. Okay, thank you very much for the game. Let's go to the normal order of challenges. So the first was ShellingFort. Let's accept this challenge. This will be very hard now, I believe. All right, so classic line again. Knight to f3. Bishop to g5. So white doesn't play a3 here for now. So maybe white tries to avoid this move altogether. One of possible strategies, obviously. It was already possible for white to go away with the knight somewhere, and my bishop on b4 would have been a liability for sure. Now queen c3, then knight e4 was a trick. So white decides not to, damage his pawn structure. That's why bishop f6 first, which I consider a good exchange for black in general. So now white doesn't have a pair of bishops, which makes this position more or less balanced, I suppose. So e5 now looks interesting. Another possible idea is just play b6, bishop b7. But I feel like playing e5 in this position. Why not? Rook to e1. Sophisticated way of developing the pieces. Let's bring the bishop to g4. I mean, it's hard to find a good square for this guy anyway. So let's put it here, exerting some pressure, some indirect pressure on central squares, because it is attacking the knight, who's a great defender of d4 at least. And now white is going to play c5, which I think should be stopped by c5 myself. So I stopped the pawn on c4, which means this bishop on e2 is probably not very active. On the other hand, of course, this move weakens d5 square, but I hope it will be not so simple for white to occupy the square anyway. So I guess position remains balanced. Okay, let's protect this pawn additionally. So now maybe something like e4, exchanging the light square bishop, then bringing my knight to d3. White has much more chances to bring his knight to d5. But after that move, I'm no longer sure. So let's take, if I take on e2, rook e2, and I play e4, where this knight going? Probably there will be a problem with it. Maybe I'm blundering something, but I have a feeling that h4 is more or less forced now. Otherwise, I'll just trap that knight, or the pawn structure will be seriously damaged. But you know, even after h4, it doesn't look very convincing to me. I mean, I can play what? Just knight to g4, or what? I don't know, just rook to d8. I'm not sure which move is better. Maybe it makes sense for me to exchange one pair of rooks here. What do you think? So if I play h6, knight h3, then what? Knight g4, attacking h4. Maybe just a tempo play like that should be good enough for me. Yeah, why not? h4 is under attack. My knight can go to e5, then to d3. Looks nice. f3 is another target here. So knight e5, knight f3 looks great. Maybe just g5 now. It's probably too much. Okay, let's just put the knight in the e5 position. Looks very pleasant. So light squares are very weak, and I suppose I have to think of the attack against the king. Maybe gradually bring in my queen somewhere to g4, h3, or f3, or something. Rook to d5. Okay, now what about queen e6, knight f4, queen g4? My knight is hanging there. It's a bad idea. Okay, then just check and rook to d8, right? My knight controls d2, which prevents this rook from e2 going to the d file, and this rook is quite limited in general. So I'm sure that this knight is not very dangerous. Now let's just bring my queen to where? To g4. With some very annoying threats, I guess. So knight e1 is a motive. It's not possible, of course, right now. But at some point, it may be good. First, queen g4. Just creating a threat of knight takes h4. The position looks very good for black. The question is there a, something decisive Would be nice, of course, to have the rook on e6 already here. But maybe I have the time just to bring it there. Why not? I don't think white has, you know, some dangerous threats. So let's put the rook here. All right. So queen h3, king e2 was not very attractive even one move ago. I didn't see anything specific there, so I guess it makes no sense to do something like that. Let's try some sort of regrouping. Just bring the knight to d3. My opponent prevented it. Okay, but what about queen to f3 now? All right. Now this move. Knight to g2. Okay. Should be just resignable. Check. And checkmate on h1. Unless white captures my knight, which is equally bad. Okay, very interesting game, but it felt like somewhat one-sided. I think white could have improved his play very early in the opening. So somewhere here, after bishop c3, I believe that bc3 is absolutely valid and playable move. Although the pawn structure becomes quite, bad for white on the queen side, but it's well compensated by pair of bishops. That's just my opinion. I mean, taken from my experience playing this position with black for so many years and so many games. Also somewhere here, I don't think that bishop e2 was justified, because after all it's a passive move, so probably just bishop d3 is good enough, because white controls e4 sufficiently. Moreover, this move is a tempo move, just attacking h7. There is a direct threat of just taking on h7, and I have a feeling that e5 is not well prepared. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but if I play something like h6, say, first of all, white has a chance, to play h4. Another idea is just to play bishop h4, and even if I play e5, there is always something like this, which is quite annoying. Maybe just castling. Can I play e4? Don't think so. Don't think so. However, I can start with this, right? Yeah, so maybe it's not so simple. Anyway, maybe it's not so simple. All right. Okay, question of taste mainly. Bishop e2 or bishop d3. Of course, it's not a a decisive mistake or something. I just believe that after this exchange on f6, black no longer has problems. I mean, real problems. So position looks absolutely okay. And the rest was just like, just normal play. And I was luckier. All right. Next game, Sebi. Accept. Sebi, come on. It's your move. Time to play. And MGTOW will always find excuses for ShellingFort. Yeah. No excuses for me, but for Shelling. God, just kidding. just the same trend. When Shelling loses to me, it's because Shelling plays not his best chess. When I'm losing to Shelling, it's just like because Shelling is genius. Isn't it? Like that? Okay, e4. Finally, e5. It's okay, of course. So, c3, a4 is another interesting possibility. That is what I usually play. Okay, c3 will lead to main lines sooner or later, I believe. Castles. Castles. Ja, du hast ein höheres Rating, Junge. Says, I like ShellingFort's Caricom series a lot. Yeah, it's brilliant. Rook e1. Bishop d7. Knight bd2. H6. I mean, I'm playing like the normal line with the pawn in d4, but the pawn is still on d3. I guess it's completely normal for black, and it feels like, you know, white just played d4 into moves. On the other hand, white managed to save the time on playing h3, so pawn is still on h2. Does it mean anything? I mean, if I play bishop g4 now, do I really create a threat, or it's just a, you know, nothing? I'm very tempted to try it. Bishop g4, but then bishop d5 should be considered. Knight takes d5, d5, knight somewhere. d5, d5, rook e5. I should regain the material there, but it's unclear for sure. It's unclear for sure. I have no idea. Let's just keep on playing standard things. Bishop c2 and c5. I think at some point white will have to play something like h3. Maybe I'm wrong, you know. Okay. So the knight is going to b6 to be behind pawns, and then we'll start pushing them like a5, a4, so forth. b3, knight b6. That's the idea behind this maneuver. Otherwise, if knight stays on a5, white plays b3, and this knight from a5 will never ever find a good square. Knight to h4. Interesting if I can play something like knight to d5 now. Isn't it a blunder? I mean, if the knight d5, queen d5, nothing is hanging, at least at first glance. If after knight d5, knight goes to f5, I can go away with the knight even to, you know, f4 looks interesting. Isn't it a good position for me? I'm not sure. Because I win a pawn, that's true. But maybe I will lose the one on d6, which is not the end of the world. Wow. I have no idea. Should I take it or not? Or just knight g4, just normal move, forcing the knight back to f3. Or just g6. Let's play g6, come on. Probably just knight e5 was completely okay. g6, on the other hand, also looks absolutely fine. Covering f5 square, and now knight e5 becomes a real threat. If knight goes back to f3, it's just a waste of time, right? Right. So position is closed. Not so much happening. And after h3, well, it definitely feels like, you know, I have extra tempo if compared to main lines. Because white basically did this d4, d3, d4. Not d4 immediately, I mean. Okay, let's keep on moving. So, king protects, h6. Sort of prophylaxis. Just showing my opponent is that whenever f4 is played, there may be consequences. I'm a bit tempted to play this strange looking move, but I protect the knight and prepare rook a8 followed by a4. Looks like we lost the stream, right? Okay, it's back. But we dropped some files. Bad thing. I have only 47 seconds now. Even less now. Let's go here. I'm hoping to survive this. Mainly because of the situation on the clock. I have only 40 seconds, even less than that. It's very hard. I was talking too much, right? During this game. Forgot to actually play it. Oh god. Come on! Just take this fucking pawn. No, it's impossible to play this with such a mouth, you know? Yeah, we'll lose on time this, and position is obviously very bad already. Oh, okay. Maybe I have some chances here, but... Oh my goodness, no. I lost on time. So probably we lost the stream completely. Or what's going on here? So, am I online now or not? So let's have a look at this. I'm going to check this right now. So on my end, it's showing that there was, some dropped frames, but for now it should be more or less fine. It should be back, right? Time to change your mouth, Andrey says the drunken lawyer, which means that probably, well, I was live during last, 1 minute or maybe something more than that. So just let me know on chat if the stream is back. I mean, is it okay now? Because on my end it shows that it's okay. It's not the mouse. Pre-moves work very bad on chess24, says MGTOW. Maybe. I don't know. But no, it was mainly a mouse, of course. So at some point, obviously my position was close to winning. So here, yeah, this sacrifice was just a desperation. I didn't see a clear plan. Well, I guess black can do everything without sacrificing the material here. Something like h4 to start with. But even this sacrifice looks quite nice, taking into account that the knight has to go to h1. So I have 2 pawns, right? But probably, rook e3 was not the best move. Something like knight to f2 was fine. Just fighting against the c5 pawn mainly. Maybe my compensation is not complete here. It's not sufficient. Yeah, that was too much, I guess, to sacrifice the exchange like that. Maybe queen e5 to start with was not the optimal decision. I just wanted to, simplify a position. But probably it was even better for me to try something like bishop e8 over protecting f7. And then moving my knight through d7 to e5. Where after I'll be completely fine. But in this case, of course, knight comes back to... Oh, God. I'll use touchpad. So knight comes back to f3, intending to go to g5. And black can be in trouble here. Yeah, so maybe queen e5 was alright after all. It's hard to say. So it was just a normal Ruy Lopez, but with sort of extra tempo for black if compared to the main line of this Smyslov variation. On the other hand, position is close, so you never know if this extra tempo means anything. So position was absolutely playable for both sides. So probably somewhere here, I could have played better. For example, immediate h5 looked much more natural than rook a6. Intended bishop h6 already. And if something like f4, I can take. After bishop f4, I can play b4, which is quite annoying. At least it looks like that. So probably white cannot play f4 immediately, which means I will have the time to get rid of my bad bishop after playing bishop h6. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thanks for the game. You played good chess after all. And managed to win. Cobra is the next. Let's accept. We'll be playing with the touchpad. For the first time while streaming. I mean, never happened before. I used to play many 3-minute Blitz games with the touchpad. But not while streaming, So... yeah, I was too nervous during the previous game. Sorry for that. Knight to 6. What is going on here? Bishop f4 is the move, right? e6. The bishop is passive. which is a good thing for me. Bishop c8, I mean. Check your move setting on the board. It looks like it is set too slow. I'm just not, dragging the pieces. I'm just making it like clicking on the piece and then clicking on the square. And I'm moving them not so fast. Try not to risk. So I didn't change settings and it was fine all the time. Believe me. Queen goes to b6. All right, so here I think I have a choice between playing queen to b3 with the pleasant endgame in many cases and just queen to e2 protecting that pawn. I'm not sure I will have a good chance to, develop my knight after that. b2 will be hanging for a long time. Queen c2 is usually not a good idea because of the bishop d7, rook c8, my queen will be in trouble there. And the c file. So let's just go to b3, Let it be endgame after all. Why not? So now I have a file. I have also a dynamic plan of playing b4, b5, getting rid of that knight on c6, which will give me better control of central squares. a6 will not help in many cases because a6 will be pinned. For example, right now after b4 I still have a threat of playing b5 and black has to deal with this. And it's not so simple. It's impossible to go away with the rook from the a file. Black probably doesn't want to play something like b5, which weakens position a lot. Rook a7 is just too ugly. So I think I have an advantage here. And b5, by the way, is just just a blunder. So I'll just capture the bishop, the pawn with the bishop. Bishop here. I can just go back. So the same, but with the extra pawn for me. Right? Right. Let's just convert this pawn. Knight e2, knight b3, knight c5 looks like something very natural. Maybe even knight to a5. No. c5 looks better than that. Now I have protected passer on c5. I control b8 with the bishop, which is very good. Because although the b file is open, black doesn't have real chance to use it. Very good position. So touchpad works much better, I would say. Feels much safer, I just understand what to expect. It's always a good thing, g5. On the other hand, what else to do? So at least some sort of counterplay, at least some sort of activity. It does weaken a position. So first let's go to h2. Waiting for f5. If f5 is played, probably after that I will find another square for the bishop. Obviously there is an f4 threat, limiting my bishop too much. So I think now it's time to regroup the pieces a bit, maybe to bring that bishop to c7, but then I'll have to go to b6, which is not very pleasant, because I wanted this bishop to control b8 square and this diagonal in general. On the other hand, even on b6 it will be not that bad. Covering the b file, attacking a5, so It's not entirely pointless, I mean, to have the bishop on b6. Alright, here's my new weakness. It is e6 pawn. Let's attack it as well. And this gives me a chance to attack the knight with the bishop b5. And a4 pawn simultaneously. But if bishop goes to d7, I'll just capture the knight and capture on e6, attacking two bishops simultaneously, winning the bishop. One of these guys at least. And if knight goes away, the first question is where? I don't think there is a good square for it. Okay, now I suppose it's over completely. I don't see how black is going to save the material. Yeah, the final stage of the game against Sebi, on the other hand, was just a real banter blitz, right? That was a real banter. True meaning of this word. All right. So, I do believe that e6 is just too passive. If you play this line, probably it makes sense to think of playing bishop g4. Inclusion of this move followed by e6 is the one idea. Another idea is to prevent me from playing bishop f4 in general. Just, playing knight to c6 and after c3, queen c7. If I'm not mistaken, one of the great experts of Caricom, Alexei Dreyev, prefers exactly this line with the queen on c7. All right. So, two recommendations, because this thing is too passive. It completely justifies my opening choice. I mean, I have no problems now with finding a plan. Well, one doesn't have a problem with finding a plan after, each and every continuation, like bishop g4, queen c7, doesn't really matter. But here, what enjoys his position, because in addition to this clarity, there is also this passive bishop on c8. Okay, and I'm not sure that this endgame is very pleasant for black as well. So no active play. I have very interesting pawn formation here. Have different dynamic options like b4, b5, e5 square, more active pieces. So I'm just enjoying my position, in fact. So rook a7 was possibility to prevent me from playing b5 immediately, but I don't think that position of the rook on a7 is great. I will just react with knight to d2, let's say. If you play b5 here, as Kramnik student suggested on chat, I will just play knight b3, and come on, this a6 is weak, c5 is weak, so position is awful anyway. Okay, let's go further. Big Boy RG 2015. Let's play. White pieces. e4. Scandinavian. So what happened? e6 was played. Okay, with the bishop on h5, it shouldn't be that dangerous to take on e6, I suppose. I have no idea. Let's try it. Knight c6 anyway. These crazy lines. I know that after d5 there will be something like bishop c5. But I still believe that it's much more dangerous with the bishop on f5, not on h5. But who knows? Maybe black prepared this line specifically against me. So let's Let's just play something. Question, Andrey, session scheduled until 10:30. More or less, I suppose. Yeah, now just imagine that the bishop was on a5. Knight b4 would have been much more dangerous move. Now knight b4 is absolutely nothing, I believe. So I can just attack this knight, right? With the a3 move. And I'm fine. Knight goes to a6. Okay, it's time to develop the pieces, I suppose. Because everybody is like occupying initial position. Queen a4 check doesn't mean anything. No, it's just a pattern play. I mean, c6, dc6, knight c5. Maybe I cannot be punished for it, like, immediately. So maybe queen a4 makes sense. But then what? c6, dc6. Knight goes to c5, c takes b7, knight takes a4. There is nothing anyway. I can exchange my queen for black's queen with the help of queen a4, c6 takes, knight c5, c7 takes, a4 takes d8, but black will have just a lot of developed pieces. So let's try also something developing. So after d5, bishop c5 deserved attention, but after dc6, bishop f2, king e2 is possible. With the bishop on f5, it would have been much more dangerous, I think. But I don't remember. I just don't remember the theory there, if there is a theory in general. So I have no idea. What about just taking on c6 now? Let's exchange queens. I mean, in this case, what is going on? At the moment, I'm having, what? 2 extra pawns, right? So let it be. Let it be. Bishop takes f7. Okay, some disadvantage for white in the sense of development, but this knight on a6 is quite bad. So let's limit it even more with a b4. And then possibly c5 will be played sooner or later. But first, let's bring the bishop to f4. Controlling c7 square. If not h5, then bishop e5, I suppose. And in general, I want to play c5 next move or very soon. Two extra pawns, right? Everything I have to do here is just to complete a development. That's it. Some exchanges will be also not that bad thing for white. Is it time to come back to c3? Or it's better to have the knight on e3? Or what? What to do here? I don't know. Where to put my pieces? Where to put my knights? To start with, let's bring this one to g5 maybe. Maybe to f4. I mean, I'm flexible. I have different routes here. Okay. Let's find some decent squares for my pieces. Rook 8 to d8. Alright, so there is a real threat of just rook d2. Should I do what? Bishop e2, rook d2, rook d1. Looks playable. c5, rook goes to d2. No, it's not very pleasant. Maybe just rook d1, you know? Just continue with this sort of strategy of simplification, exchanging my opponent's main attacking pieces. I have to go there. Okay, so I have only 1 minute on my clock. I have to be faster now. Otherwise, there will be another Banter Blitz game. I'm on touchpad, so I definitely have to be much faster now. I have to get faster now. Let's take the rook. Another one to d1. Pre-move, in case black captures it. If black doesn't, I will probably put my rook on d6. Attacking that c6 guy. No, black decided to capture it. Okay. This slightly simplifies the task. So now king goes to e3. Centralization. Then what? g3 maybe. Protecting f4 square and freeing the knight to maneuver to f2. Now another knight goes to c3. At some point knight e4, maybe right now. So everything is centralized now. There is no danger for me. Let's just convert the pawn. 2 pawns, sorry. I control the center very well, I think. Okay, what's my next plan? Just further simplification, centralization, and pushing pawns gradually. Oh, pay attention. All my pawns are on dark squares, so they're not accessible for the monster bishop. So I can be absolutely okay with proceeding with my main plan. Don't have to think of my weaknesses. There are no weaknesses in my camp. But I have no time again. That's a problem. God, that's a problem. So that was a bishop. Very important piece. Come on. Queen is coming. Okay, so my opponent decided to resign. Very generous, taking into account I had only 10 seconds, but after my queen appears on the board, it would be no longer that hard to convert it, I suppose. So I should have won this game anyway. Okay. So here we go. I believe that after f3, bishop f5 is stronger than bishop h5 to start with. But here I think it's anyway okay. Bishop c5 should be played. That is at least very consistent. And after taking on c6, bishop f2, forcing my king to e2. But I'm sure that, black has a decent follow-up after that. Bishop is hanging. So, yeah, black has serious advantage in development, but I don't see how my king is supposed to be attacked. So I'm going just to take the bishop on f2 next move, but there will be knight e4 checks if some tricks are still here. So I don't know, you have to check the theory for that. But I do remember that people that played bishop f5 against me instead of bishop h5 caused serious, problems to me, at least during blitz games. So I didn't find a clear way to punish them for that, probably because it's time to read some books on it. Alright, my fault, I don't know the theory here. But after this moves, I believe white is much better. So at least it was necessary to take on the e6 here. Just trying to equalize the position, at least materially. Was not enough to equalize in general, I believe, because I have better pawn structure. So long term, my position should be better. All right. It's not even simple to equalize it materially because for now I have 2 extra pawns, right? Yeah, so you can probably win 1 back, but in general, I'll be still better. All right. Anyway, let's go further. Next game, Graf von Pollen. Accept. Okay, so I hope that the stream is still there. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's try something like different compared to what I usually play. So something absolutely random. Let's go. 2 bishops. Guys, I have 2 bishops already. Not a big deal. Graf von Pollen thinks, probably. Let's put the bishop on g5. e6. How to attack here? First, let's castle. Probably without castling, will be hard to achieve anything. So the one plan is just to play f4, f5 quickly, I believe. Another plan is just to prepare c3, d4. We will see. I'm not sure that one of them is good. I'm not even sure that any of this gives me anything tangible, a long term. Knight d4. I don't know why, but I want to put my king here on h1, just going away from this a7, g1 diagonal, which is typically quite vulnerable. So at some point, probably knight e2 turn to exchange that knight d4. Let's say right now, why not? Another idea is just to play c3, you know. Getting rid of that knight and closing diagonal h8, a1 for that bishop g7. One of typical ideas here. Okay. Knight d7. Alright, c3. It's time. Time to play this move. Queen takes e2. Now, queen a5. Okay, a3, why not? c4 is not a threat anyway. My bishop is protected there on g5. And by the way, if black castles now, I can play bishop b7, bishop d6, I believe. Or maybe it's a trap or something. I don't know. Why not bishop e7, bishop d6, right? If e5, I just take on d7. So I win some material, no? Yeah, looks like a material. Looks like a material, at least a pawn. Maybe 2. Maybe an exchange. Here's an exchange. Right. Now let's go f4. d5. What about just ed5? And now just queen e7. Looks nice. Looks very cool. Rook to e1, just completing the centralization. I captured on d5 because my rooks need open files. Only in more or less open position I can prove that my rook is better than the minor piece. Obviously, e4, e5 was absolutely playable. So this position should be technically winning. a6. Let's put the queen on f3 and play f5 at some point. Protecting b2 in advance. Now it's time. Since the knight went away from e5 square, it's time to play f5 and open up a position completely. f6 or f takes g6. I know both look very good. To know which one is better, probably f takes g6. Still trying to open a position as much as possible. Now I get to f7 and then rook e7 should be sort of, decisive. Invasion. Yeah, it's over now. Just a catastrophe. So, what went wrong? Hard to say, because I have no idea what to play here normally. But I do believe that bishop h3 is a dubious decision. I would have played bishop d7 for sure. Would I be black here? Bishop d7. Okay, you forced me to play f3, which I was probably not going to, at least in the nearest future. Now just go back. Of course, not to c8, the initial position, but d7, just a distant square. And keep on playing. Normal Sicilian. e6, knight e7, or knight f6 castling. Rook b8, b5, b4. Normal plan. If I play f4, I'm not sure it's a great, idea when you already played h4. So g4 will be seriously weak, and you can use it, potentially. So I don't like the idea of giving up a bishop here. Position remains close, but whenever I open up it with the help of f4, f5, or g4, you will feel the weakness of light squares. So it never happened in this game because I found other ways to your weaknesses, but it is one of the plans. After bishop a3, every time I'm ready to play f4, f5, followed by g4, just imagine your king is somewhere on g8, you'll feel really uncomfortable because light squares are weakened, and I have the light squared bishop, you have no light squared bishop anymore. Typical thing. Okay, one more, right? c4, g5 here, accept. So probably the last one for today, for this time. e4. c4. c4, I said? Okay, let it be. So what are we going to play here? It's English now, right? Just a transposition to sort of Botvinnik triangle. Let me think. So h3 or not h3, I don't know. Bishop e3 or bishop d2. Got no idea what to do here. Rook b1, a3, b4 is one of the plans. Let's try this out. Looks like a pleasant position for white, I would say. Have a lot of space. What about f4? If not g4, then h3. So, oh, that's interesting. The knight is going to h6, or what's going on? I'll play g4, my friend. I will chase that knight. Now it's over, I believe. Yeah, it's time to sacrifice something. Otherwise, it would be just completely lost. And now I guess simply f5 will finish that knight anyway. Let's do it. Oh, crap. Missed that completely. That's why it's time to finish the show. Maybe it's not a catastrophe after all, because knight on h6 doesn't have squares. But it was absolutely unnecessary to lose the knight this way. Oh my god. Maybe I should just take the bishop on c3 and after bishop d1 just to take the bishop on d1. But then that goes to g4. Okay, knight c3, bishop takes d1, bishop takes h6, attacking that rook. Bishop most likely goes away to g4. I take on f8, and what do I have? I have not enough compensation. But it's fun, isn't it? So maybe I should sacrifice a queen? Or no? No, I don't think so. Okay, let's just go away. I mean, the knight is trapped. I should have extra minor piece after all. That's why Jose says, Andrey, I'm missing the musician from Bielefeld tonight. I'm not missing him. You know, it's quite distracting. When he is making his music too loud. He was very active today and he went to bed earlier than usually. Right now it's absolutely lost for black, so extra minor piece and no compensation. The key is completely open. I mean, it should be just over in a few moves. So as you can see, I blundered the knight on c3, but it didn't help black because the knight on h6 was anyway so bad that I managed to trap it. Check. The king is completely limited there on g8, so I'm going just to play rook to g1, preparing bishop g2 somewhere with the checkmate. And if f6, I will probably just take on f5. All right. So there was something deeply wrong with knight to e5 maneuver, I think. So before that, it was more or less playable. But again, I'm not sure that you have to take on b4. It's better to base your play on occupying d4 square. For that, by the way, it's better to develop your knight to e7, not f6. In that case, you have a better control over d4 square. And even here, knight to d4 looked much more natural to me if compared to taking on b4. Another interesting possibility was probably just to play knight to e8, intended to occupy d4. Maybe knight c7, knight e6, knight e4. One of possible maneuvers here. Another idea behind knight e8 is, by the way, to play f5 at some point. Maybe. Again, I'm not sure. But taking on b4 sort of help. So I take here. Maybe something like b7, b5 would have been interesting here. Just to sacrifice a pawn. And then, you know, to attack that knight on b5 using the fact that I'm still not castled or something. Yeah, but knight e5 is definitely something that helps me. You just lose a tempo after knight g4, you're just, come on. There is no compensation, I mean. Miktal suggested bishop takes e2 check a bit later when I already, like, missed the thing. But it doesn't help. I mean, I take on e2 with the queen and still knight has no squares. Like, g4 is not possible. I attack the knight 2 times, so I win the piece back. Okay, but obviously f5 was not necessary, so I could have played any other normal move, just protecting what is hanging. I didn't see it was hanging, basically. That's why I played f5. So something like queen b3, of course, is just normal move. Queen d2, bishop d2, almost everything. So I don't believe black has a compensation for us for missing material here. That being said, thanks for the games, Andrey. See you on Training Tuesday. Yeah, thank you too. Sorry for technical issues. They were just slight this time, I believe. So there was just one moment when we lost the stream, I think. But it was recovered rather quickly. Hopefully you managed to learn something new from this session. At least I was trying to explain the things. And also, my play was a bit better than last week, I believe. At the very least, I managed to win my game against Shelling. There was also an interesting fight against Sebi, right? And that was, painful defeat. All right, yeah. Wish you all the best, wish you a great weekend, and see you next week. Bye-bye.